If you ask me what the most dangerous place in the world is, I wouldn't say a war zone, a dark forest, or the side of a cliff. My answer would be the dark web. Why, do you ask? Well, let me tell you my story. I'm Emily, and this is how the deep web changed my life forever. 3 years ago, I met Mike. We met at a mutual friend's birthday party. I was just 23 back then, and he was well into his late 30s. I was surprised to see someone so old at the birthday party of a 22-year-old, but there he was in his tux, looking completely out of place. Maya, my friend whose birthday it was the daughter of Mike's business friend. The moment we spoke, butterflies didn't flutter in my stomach, nor did sparks fly when I ended up in his bed that night. But something was clear. Mike was lonely and wealthy, a perfect combination for my future husband. I wanted to launch my own business one day, and Mike would be a great help in my venture. With this thought in mind, I started dating him. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Exactly a year later, he proposed to me, and I said yes, obviously. I must admit I never loved Mike, but he adored me. For me, he was a safety net for my future, and his mild attractiveness did not hurt. But merely weeks after our marriage, Mike changed. At first, it was subtle, like asking me where I was going all the time, calling me several times while I was out to check on me. Then he started controlling my finances, asking every time how much I spent and with whom I was hanging out with. His behavior was less loving and more controlling, as if he tried to own me. Life felt less free and more suffocating with him. He made me account for every penny I spent. It was as if the Mike I had married had completely changed and turned into a controlling husband. Around our 6-month anniversary, I hit my breaking point when I caught Mike checking my phone. He was snooping, trying to find God knows what in my cell phone. I swear, even if I didn't love him, I never once thought about cheating on him. He was my only husband and partner. But when I saw him showing distrust in me, I lost it. I knew if I wanted his money and property, there was only one way to get it all: by getting rid of Mike. That night as he slept, I browsed the deep web. A friend of mine had mentioned getting illegal weapons on it, so I knew I would find help there. After about an hour of browsing, I found a site that had a hitman on demand. No questions asked. I instantly logged into the site and was connected to a potential hitman. He only specified his code name, Brass Knuckles, and that 57 jobs were completed successfully. He asked only 3 questions: who, when, and where. I gave him Mike's details and his photo. The hitman, Brass Knuckles, said he would figure out the rest. 2 weeks later, I received an anonymous text on my phone. "Job will be in motion tonight, in your house. Stay out till the wee hours of the morning." I immediately knew that the hitman had a plan in motion. I had transferred $2 million in crypto to a wallet the hitman had mentioned earlier. That night, one of my friends had invited me to a cocktail party, and I planned to stall there for as long as possible. Around 11 p.m., when I was on my 3rd drink and checking my phone for messages from the hitman, my phone had finally dinged. It was Mike calling me. I ignored the calls as I knew why he was calling me, exactly. Looks like Brass Knuckles was doing his job. Mike called me around 12 times and I ignored every one of his calls. But exactly an hour later, I got a message that had my interest. "Job done. Return any time." That's all the message said. I bid farewell to all my friends and then drove home. By the time I got there, it was around 2 in the morning. I entered my home and there was a trail of blood right from the front door leading to the living room. I clutched my purse to my chest and pretended to be scared. I yelled out Mike's name and ran to the living room. The whole home was covered by CCTV cameras, and I wanted the cops to know that I was terrified. He wasn't in the living room, and a trail of blood led me to our upstairs bedroom. But the second I entered the bedroom, which had no CCTVs, my heart leaped out of my chest. There, sitting on a chair, was my husband, Mike, living and thriving as the day he was born, and beside him was the hitman I had ordered off the deep web. Brass Knuckles looked like a man in his late 40s with a gun in his hand and a scar running across his old face. Both of the men were smirking at me. "What's going on?" I was so confused. "Well, it turns out I was double booked today," Brass Knuckles said and pointed the gun at me. "I loved you. I married you. I gave you the comforts that you never had, and you repay me like this?" Mike shouted, pointing at the hitman. I can explain. This was a huge misunderstanding." I tried to smooth things out, but the hitman fired at the wall behind me, and I just shut up. I told him everything. He, Brass Knuckles, said, and tears flowed from my cheeks. The next thing I knew, he was moving towards me with a raised hand. And then everything went dark. I woke up in the hospital with cops surrounding my bed. That was 2 weeks later, and my hand was patched up, and so was most of my face and head. Mike was nowhere in sight. That's when the detective told me that I was accused of trying to kill my husband by hiring a hitman. My deep web history was the proof, and the hitman himself, Brass Knuckles, was testifying against me. Mike had told the cops that I was unstable and jealous, accused me of doing everything that he did to me, and paid the hitman to assault me instead. It was an open and shut case. And now, here I am in jail, with lifetime imprisonment for the crimes I almost committed.
I purchased a laptop on the dark web. I never should have bought that laptop. It turned my life completely upside down. It all started on a late-night browsing spree, the kind that often lead me down the rabbit holes of obscure dark websites offering all kinds of tantalizing offers. You could find anything imaginable there, from legal to the illegal and everything in between. That's when I found it. A listing that seemed innocent enough, buried among a jumble of more questionable items. Old laptop, perfect for refurbishing. Minimal wear and tear in good working condition, the ad read. I am a tech enthusiast who is always looking for new projects, and this one was too good to pass up. The only reservation I had was the seller's lack of reviews, and those that existed were vague, making it hard to tell if the product was legit. But the price was unbeatable, and I figured it was worth the risk. As I clicked buy now, a sense of unease settled in my stomach, but I brushed it off. I needed a distraction, and the laptop seemed like the perfect project. When the laptop finally arrived, it looked a little worn, but had a certain retro charm to it. I wiped it down, plugged it in, and powered it up. The screen flickered to life, revealing a handful of files. Most were harmless, old documents, music files, and applications, but one stood out. Do not open. It read in bold red lettering. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the mouse. Curiosity gnawed at me. It had to be a joke left by the previous owner. I was a seasoned hacker. I could, of course, handle a simple file. Taking a deep breath, I clicked. Immediately, the screen filled with static. The sound was sharp, cutting through the silence and sending a chill down my spine. I wanted to close the laptop, but I continued to watch, mesmerized. The video appeared, grainy and dark. A strange-looking figure stood before a flickering candle, chanting in a language I couldn't understand. His voice was low and haunting. Suddenly, he turned to the camera, revealing his hollow eyes that seemed to stare straight through me. The video then abruptly cuts off, leaving only an eerie silence. I closed the laptop, a little taken aback but not totally shaken. "It's just a video," I whispered to myself. "Nothing more." But I had no idea that the real disturbances were only about to begin in my life. The next morning, I woke up to a flood of notifications. My social media accounts were filled with strange messages, and people I hadn't spoken to in years were frantically emailing, calling, and texting me. I was overwhelmed, trying to make sense of all of it. Then an old school friend called, his voice sounding shaky. He asked if I was okay, saying he'd received an email with a video of me trying to hang myself. I froze in shock. "I'm sending it now," he said. The email arrived, and my heart raced as I clicked the video. It was a grainy recording of me in my living room, standing beneath a noose. I watched in horror as I positioned myself to go through with it. I had no memory of this. I had never done anything like this. How could this even happen? I asked myself. Just then, the doorbell rang, followed by loud banging. My stomach churned. Was it the police? Had someone reported the video? How am I going to explain any of this to them? Hesitant, I opened the door, bracing myself for a tough conversation with the police. But instead of the authorities, it was my girlfriend, Stella. Her mascara was smeared all over her face from crying, but her expression was nothing but pure fury. Without a word, she stormed in, shoving me back onto the couch. Before I could react, she kicked off her shoe and started hitting me with it. Hard, relentless blows as I tried to shield myself. "Stella, wait! I can explain!" I pleaded. "That video was fake. I wasn't trying to do anything." She paused, her chest heaving with anger, then pulled out her phone. "Explain this then," she spat, thrusting the screen in front of me. It was another video, this time of me sitting on a beach with a woman who wasn't Stella. The two of us were laughing and flirting while she sat on my lap. Tears streamed down Stella's face. "Are you saying this is fake too?" she asked, her voice cracking. I stared at the screen, dumbfounded. I didn't recognize the woman in the video, nor have I ever been to the beach as well. None of it made sense, but before I could even form a response, Stella threw her shoe at me one last time and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I was left sitting there, reeling from the sheer impossibility of it all. Then my phone rang again. This time, it was my parents. They said they'd received a news clip showing me in jail after a drunk driving accident. A news clip? Of me in jail? How could that even be possible? I asked myself again as I stood in my own living room, completely bewildered. My head spun as I spent the next few hours trying to calm down friends and family, assuring them I was fine and that it was all some prank. But was it really a prank? I reluctantly glanced at the laptop as a wave of dread washed over me, my heart pounding in my chest as I slowly approached it and opened it again. The screen flickered to life. This time, all of the files were gone except for two. The original Do Not Open file and a new one labeled Victims. A list appeared that was long and chilling. I scrolled down each entry, accompanied by photos and usernames from the dark web. People who were probably no longer alive. My blood ran cold when I saw my name. I was number 178, the most recent victim. My status was being shown as in progress. As I clicked on my folder, a photo of me appeared, along with details only someone who had been watching me would know. Some of the other usernames on the list were familiar too. People I'd seen online on the dark web in forums I frequent. I often wondered where they suddenly vanished. Now I knew why, and I realized I might be next. Panic surged through me. I slammed the laptop shut, grabbed it, and raced out the door. I drove for hours until I found a secluded spot near a dumpster. I tossed the laptop out and drove over it several times to make sure it was destroyed. For the first time in days, I felt some relief. But it didn't last long. When I returned home, my blood froze. The laptop was sitting on my desk as if it had never left. A chill crept down my spine as I stood there staring in horror. Paranoia consumed me. Right then, I knew I had a huge problem on my hands and had to find a solution for it no matter what. So I started looking at online forums dedicated to paranormal activities and digital hauntings. Maybe, just maybe, someone else had encountered a similar experience. My fingers flew across the keyboard, typing furiously, desperate for answers. As I scrolled through hundreds of posts, I found one that caught my eye. It was headlined, "The Cursed Laptop." The poster detailed a story eerily similar to mine. After purchasing an old laptop from the dark web, he began receiving ominous messages and videos that terrorized the user. His advice was simple but chilling. Confront it. Do a cleansing ritual. So I researched further on the dark web, uncovering an array of rituals involving salt, candles, and incantation. I gathered the supplies, feeling both foolish and desperate at the same time. As night fell, I prepared the ritual in my dimly lit apartment, following all the instructions to the letter. I lit a row of candles on either side of the room and drew a circle on the middle of the floor using salt. Once I stood inside the circle, I started with the incantation. "Spirits of the digital realm, I call upon you to reveal yourself," I said, my voice slightly trembling. I seek an end to this torment." Nothing happened at first, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me. But then, the laptop flickered violently. The screen flashed, and the ominous file reappeared, more vivid than before. The strange figure was looking at me intently through the laptop as if he was trying to get a measure of me. Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the room into darkness. Even the light from the candles was being blocked from illuminating the room by some unseen powerful force. And then slowly, the candles started to spread a little bit of light around the room, casting a creepy-looking silhouette by my side. Right then, I felt a cold and putrid breath against my neck, and a voice whispered in my ear, "You've invited me in, Anthony." I could feel his presence just behind the salt circle, and I realized he couldn't get closer. This was the same figure that appeared on the video first when I opened the laptop. But in real, he looked a lot more terrifying. He carefully stood at the edge of my vision, his dark silhouette blurring the boundaries of reality. "What do you want?" I shouted, my voice cracking. The figure stepped closer, its face a distorted visage of rage. "You opened the door, and now you must pay the price." Terror clawed at me inside, but I forced myself to stand my ground. "I didn't mean to. I just wanted to refurbish the laptop." "It's too late for remorse," he hissed, a chilling echo of my own fear. In that moment, I remembered the ritual. I needed to confront this entity, to assert my will. "I reject you. I will not be your victim. Spirits of the digital realm, I command you to leave," I shouted at the top of my lungs. The temperature dropped sharply, and the shadows lengthened. I felt a pull, a tug of war between my will and the spirit's malevolent force as everything started to swirl around me. The figure roared in anger, while the screen flickered wildly as it struggled against my command. Suddenly, my room was plunged into complete darkness, and the power finally returned a few seconds later. When my gaze shifted towards the table, I realized the laptop was gone. It had disappeared. Finally, out of my life for good. Oh, thank God and the Holy Spirits. After that day, I changed all of my electronic devices. Yes, I replaced every one of them. I even deleted my email and other online accounts and opened completely new ones. I didn't want to leave anything to chance. In fact, it has been over 3 months since I visited the dark web, and I don't plan to visit anytime soon. Then I also managed to get back with my girlfriend, Stella. Somehow, I was able to convince her of my innocence. So one day, while we were on vacation and having a good time, a message suddenly appeared on my phone. Attached was a single folder. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen, heart pounding. The folder's name flashed at me in bold red lettering. "Do not open."
Hey guys, my name is Ash. Have you ever bought anything on Craigslist? For people who don't like to leave their house, like me, it's a great option to be able to buy anything you want. I started as a simple, compulsive shopper. Everything I liked, I bought, without thinking about it until one day I thought, why can't I also start selling? And that's how I started my career, as an apparel seller on Craigslist. At first, I thought I couldn't sell anything, that since I had no reputation, everyone would ignore me. But the opposite happened. People went crazy. Everyone was buying from me, and my online store was a huge success. Sales came and went. I can't say that all the customers were excellent. I have even argued with some. What I could never expect is that one was going to ruin my life. Everything started as normal. I got an order for a pair of women's long pants, so I packed it up and sent it off. A few days later, Craigslist notified me that the buyer had requested a refund. I wasn't that surprised. It must have been a gift or not the right size. What surprised me was that the buyer didn't tell me anything. When the pants arrived, I almost didn't have time to check them. I just left them on a chair and continued working. Little did I know that the moment I received the pants, my life would change. A few days after the return, I began to see a strange man harassing me. He never came close, but I could see him everywhere, in the distance, just watching me. The only times he didn't appear was when Derek, my boyfriend, was with me. Little by little, the stalker became more and more encouraged to come closer to my house. He would watch me through the window of his car when I was shopping. It was getting out of control. Whenever I called the police, they could never catch him. But the one time they found him, they did nothing. Why would they arrest him for being in his car? One night, I started receiving several messages on my cell phone. It was an unknown number. I opened it out of curiosity, and when I saw the video they sent me, I cried with terror. Someone was filming me while I was sleeping. The filming was coming from a place on a chair. No one was holding the camera. It was in a fixed place. I started to check the chair, and that's when it hit me. The pants. I looked at the pants and discovered a small camera in them. Had this been done by the one who gave it back to me? Was he the one who was harassing me? I started crying, and not only destroyed the camera, I threw the pants away. The next few days were terrifying. It was as if the stalker had woken up. I felt like I was never alone, and possibly I wasn't. I saw the man in every step I took. He was always walking down my sidewalk. I heard tapping on my windows and noises everywhere. I couldn't stand the fear anymore, and after the police did nothing again, I called Derek and asked him to stay with me. Even though he had to miss work, I felt much calmer. I had talked to him about going to his house, but that would have to wait until the next day. Once my boyfriend arrived, I thought the stalker would never show up again. I was wrong. The man knocked on my bedroom window, greeting us with a creepy smile from outside. In response, my boyfriend grabbed a huge knife. Derek, no! He's dangerous!
I have to get him now while I can. Otherwise, this will go on forever.
My boyfriend opened the door and began to chase him. I could see through the window how Derek was running fiercely. Surely he had seen him and wanted to catch him. I stayed calm and sighed, but suddenly I received another message. In the video, someone was filming me and Derek from inside the house. At that exact moment, my boyfriend went to chase the man. What? No. This can't be. The psycho was inside the house. Derek was chasing the wrong person. I ran to my bedroom door and locked it. I put a piece of furniture in front of it to cover it. No one was going to come into this room. When Derek came over, I would warn him through the window not to come in. I called the police, and they told me they would come immediately. I was afraid that the psycho was listening in from the other phone line, so in desperation, I cut the call. My house was silent. I could no longer hear the invader or anyone else. I approached the door to look through the hole to see if anyone was around. I peeked out slowly and saw no one. Suddenly, the closet doors opened. At the noise, I fell down in terror. The man was not outside, nor was he prowling around my house. He was in my own closet. The man was huge. I had no idea how he fit in the closet. He started walking towards me slowly, with a look and a grin from ear to ear. He looked like a monster.
Ash. I waited so long to have you here with me. It was so much fun torturing you these days, but I couldn't wait another minute.
What do you want? Who the hell are you?
I'm just another Craigslist customer, Ash. I'm sorry I had to return your pants, but I needed to know where you lived.
Did you plan all this? You're a psycho.
I may be a psycho, but you're the victim. And you know what? You're not the first.
Without another word, the man lunged at me and began to choke me. I couldn't do anything. He had much more strength than me. He planned everything to perfection, and it worked.
Ash! Ash!
Dizzy, I heard my boyfriend behind the door ramming it. The psycho threw me against the wall, and when I regained consciousness, I didn't see him anymore. Derek, get out of here! Someone's in here! The door burst open with one last slam, and my boyfriend came in desperate.
Ash, are you all right? Where is he?
Out of the shadows, the psycho appeared behind Derek. Derek, behind you! As soon as my boyfriend turned around, the psychopath plunged a knife into his throat. No! Derek walked towards me, looking at me confused, and immediately fell to the ground.
To tell you the truth, I didn't expect to kill him. I thought I was going to be done with you before Derek finished chasing that homeless guy I paid to stalk you. Oh well, so much the better. Where were we, Ash?
The police will be here any minute. They'll lock you up forever.
You're so innocent, Ash. Unfortunately for you, you won't be alive to know if the police will catch me.
The psychopath lunged at me again, and once more he choked me. But this time, I was prepared. In all the commotion, I grabbed a marble ornament that was next to me and smashed it over his head. I ran as fast as I could. The psycho, with blood on his head and very dizzy, chased me from behind until just as I was at the exit, he jumped on top of me and caught me. The man had in his hands the same statue I hit him with. He raised it towards me to kill me with it, but suddenly, many hands stopped him. They were my neighbors, who had heard everything and managed to stop him until a few seconds later the police arrived. It was all over. Derek did not survive what happened, and from that day on, I started therapy and never sold or bought anything on Craigslist again. The man was arrested and received a life sentence. I still remember his face when he was sentenced. He looked at me laughing. He knew the damage was done and that I could never recover. But that's where he was wrong. That night made me stronger. Now I have learned to defend myself, and even though I am no longer on that platform, I will always be careful. I will never again allow anyone to hurt me or the people I love. Have you ever been swayed by other people's opinions? I mean, have you ever judged someone without knowing them, just because someone else had a bad opinion? Before you answer me, let me tell you my story. My name is Angela, and believe it or not, my answer to this simple question almost cost me my life. It all started when I was desperately looking for a wax salon. The place I normally went to had taken a vacation, and I couldn't wait for them to come back, as I had a date in a few days, and I wasn't comfortable with my body. I had never been up for it, and didn't trust my mom either. So, I went to the only wax salon near my house. All my friends had been there at some point in their lives, and they all told me the same thing. Beware of the man with no eyebrows. They all told me that their experience with this man was terrible. Not that he hurt them, harassed them, or said anything out of line. Not at all. In fact, he was very professional. What bothered all my friends was the obsession with which he wanted to pull out all the hairs. He seemed to hate them. There are rumors that say he doesn't have any hair, that he pulled them all out and had surgery so they would never grow back. Others say that he is not even human, that he was a being from another planet who wanted to impersonate one of us, but he couldn't grow hair on his costume, and that's why he hated them. Me? I honestly didn't believe any of those rumors. I found one more ridiculous than the other. Maybe it was that they were uncomfortable having a man attend to them, which is more common than they think. Whatever the reason for their exaggeration, I went to the store and asked to be serviced. That night, I came home late from work, and the store was closing, but I knocked on the door and asked if I could be serviced, and they graciously let me in. The man who was serving me was bald, and I automatically recognized him as the man I had been warned about. He seemed like a calm person, maybe a little disoriented, but overall, he didn't strike me as the monster that all my friends seemed to warn me about. Besides, I couldn't criticize him. The man was staying after hours to see me. He didn't even know me. He didn't even have an appointment, and kind gestures like this hardly exist anymore. The man made me lie down on the bed and started waxing my leg. Obviously, it hurt, but not as much as in other places. For a moment, I understood what my friends were referring to. His face seemed to be totally focused on the hair on my legs. The man didn't see me. It was as if I didn't exist for him. He only cared about doing his job well. I admit that this may seem strange, but was it really a bad thing? I was paying him to work, not to be my friend. I lay on the bed relaxed and just waited for the man to finish his work. Suddenly, a strange feeling ran through my body in a place I didn't expect. I raised my head, and to my surprise, I had wax on my feet. I asked the man what he was doing, and almost ignoring me, he replied that my feet also had hair on them, only that they were more imperceptible. I decided to listen to him, although I admit that this time I was uncomfortable with him putting wax on my feet without my permission. Unfortunately, this was only the beginning. Without warning, the man began to put wax on my face. Automatically, I stood up, upset. This is not what I had asked him to do. But before I could say anything to him, he grabbed my head violently and sank it back on the bed.
I hate hair. You will not leave here until you don't have any hair left. Do you understand me?
This man was not joking. His face had turned red. Fury had covered his whole body from one second to the next. It was as if the fact of revealing myself to him had awakened something in him. Something that was not going to stop until he fulfilled his promise, even if it was something as illogical as pulling all the hair out of my face. Already much more upset than a few seconds before, the man pulled all the boiling wax off of my face. My first and only reaction was to scream in pain. This man was a beast. My face was all sore, and it burned so much that I could feel it was on fire. After that, I knew he had pulled out all my hair, including my eyebrow hairs. I took advantage of his frantic but happy look to get out of bed. All of this had been for coming so late. I had given him the chance to play with me without anyone seeing him. Luckily, it was all over. I stood up with a lot of energy and cried. I tried to leave the waxing salon, but the man had other plans. With great violence, he threw me against the wall and told me that we were not finished yet. There was still one more place with hair. I asked him which place, crying, and with a devilish smile, he said a sentence that terrified me.
You've got hair on your tongue.
What? That's ridiculous. That myth is false. I study medicine and there is no such things as hairs on the... Without letting me finish speaking, the man interrupted me by putting one hand on my neck and began to choke me. With the other hand, he grabbed boiling wax and put it inside my mouth all over my tongue. I did my best not to swallow anything, but I was afraid that something would come down my throat. What the man hadn't realized was that my friend's warnings hadn't gone completely unnoticed, and that after he had attacked me, he had thrown me on top of my purse. Quickly, I used my hand to pull pepper spray out of my purse and sprayed it in his face, immobilizing him. I quickly ran to the exit door. There was my freedom, but the man anticipated this. The door was locked. With the boiling wax in hand, the man threw himself at me and pinned me against the door, choking me again. He could barely see me. His eyes were almost closed from the pepper spray I had just sprayed on him. How did this man endure so much pain? Even though he had a lot of resistance, the pepper spray incident distracted him. So with a kick to the wax, it flew up in his face. As he screamed in pain, I rammed him, and although I barely managed to knock him down, the man was in a lot of pain. I admit that at that moment I could have grabbed the keys and left, but this situation had made me furious. I wanted to teach this person a lesson, because if the victim was not me, it could have been someone else. I walked over to the table and grabbed even more boiling wax and threw it in his face. The man was getting severe burns on his face, but I didn't care. I just grabbed the keys, got out, and went to the nearest hospital. Soon after, I found out that this man had survived, but his face had been ruined forever. After that, my tongue was saved, and I decided I was going to use it. I told everyone in the media what happened, and before I knew it, everyone knew my story. This man would not hurt anyone else, not while I was alive. After that day, I still don't judge people by what other people tell me, but I must admit that every time someone tells me something about someone else, a small part of me wonders if they are right.
I've always liked games, but I never imagined one could turn into a nightmare. It all started with Andrew, a guy who had been my friend for years. He was obsessed with Squid Games. He didn't just like the show, he lived it. Every conversation revolved around it. He knew every rule, every strategy, every detail. At first, it was amusing, but over time, it became unsettling. On weekends, we would get together to drink and play video games. But Andrew always tried to introduce some version of Squid Game into the mix. It wasn't a joke to him. He took it seriously. He said that one day he would organize his own version. We thought he was just an over-enthusiastic fan, but no one gave it much thought. But as time went on, things started getting weird. Andrew stopped talking about anything else. His social media was filled with Squid Game posts. He shared theories, strategies, and talked about the real experience. He even started buying equipment, not just decorations, but real things. Uniforms, airsoft guns, even a mask like the ones worn by the guards in the show. He looked ridiculous wearing it, but no one dared to tell him. What unsettled me the most was how he looked at us when he talked about the game, like he was analyzing our reactions, like he was planning something. We had gone out drinking. At the table were Jake, Lisa, Mark, and me. Andrew arrived late with a different expression. He wasn't his usual self. He looked serious, like something was tormenting him. He sat down and started talking about how he was disappointed in all of us. He said we were fake, that we never supported him. Lisa told him he was overreacting. It's just a show, Andrew. You can't live inside it. That only made him angrier. He stood up and invited us to his house. He said he wanted to fix things. We were drunk and, honestly, just wanted to keep the party going. No one thought it was a bad idea, but it was. When we arrived, he took us to the basement. I had never seen that place before. The walls were decorated with Squid Game posters. In one corner, a table full of firearms. We laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke, until Andrew grabbed a hunting rifle and pointed it at us. We froze. No one moved. Andrew smiled, his grip tightening on his rifle. He said we had a chance. We could leave the house, but only if we played red light, green light. Lisa tried to reason with him, stepping forward hesitantly. Andrew, this isn't funny. Just put the gun down, man. Andrew's face twisted in anger. He cocked the rifle. Red light, green light. Mark, the bravest of us, refused to play. He scoffed and took a step toward the door. This is insane. I'm leaving. The gunshot was deafening in the enclosed space. Mark collapsed to the floor, a crimson stain growing beneath him. Lisa screamed and rushed to him, hands pressing against his chest as if she could stop the bleeding. Her breathing was frantic, her face pale. Andrew's face was almost sing-song. Red light, green light. Lisa turned her head, eyes wide in terror. She barely had time to react before another shot rang out. Her body slumped over Mark's. Jake and I stood motionless, breath caught in our throats. Andrew's gaze settled on us. He grinned, tilting his head slightly. See? It's easy. Just follow the rules. Jake and I exchanged glances. There was no way out. Our only option was to play along. My hands trembled at my sides. My legs felt heavy like they were filled with lead. Andrew gestured impatiently. Come on, the game isn't over yet. We obeyed. Step by step, we moved when he allowed it, freezing when he commanded us to stop. My heart pounded violently in my chest. Every muscle in my body ached from the tension. Jake's breathing was shallow, his eyes darting between Andrew and the exit. The game felt endless. The basement stretched on forever. The air smelled of gunpowder and blood. We were close to the far wall. Just a few more steps. Then what? Would he let us go? Andrew frowned. He wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He stepped forward suddenly and pushed Jake. You moved. No, please no. He pulled the trigger. The shot echoed in the room. Jake's knees buckled as he crumpled to the ground. My stomach lurched. My knees felt weak, but I couldn't fall. I couldn't move. Andrew turned to me, a twisted smile stretching across his face. I always liked you. You were cool with me. His words sent a chill down my spine. His grip on the rifle loosened slightly. For a moment, just a moment, I saw hesitation. He turned his back and began singing again. This was my chance. My legs moved before my brain could process it. I sprinted toward the basement stairs, heart hammering in my chest. Andrew's voice followed me. Red light! I ignored him. My body slammed into the door, fumbling at the handle. A gunshot rang out behind me. Splinters flew past my face. I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. I tore through the house, feet barely touching the floor. I reached the door and yanked it open. The night air was cold, sharp against my skin. I kept running, not daring to look back. Another shot, but it wasn't for me. I turned my head just enough to see Andrew standing in the doorway, the rifle pressed against his own chin. His face was calm. His lips moved one final time. Green light. The shot echoed through the empty streets. When the police arrived, they found the bodies. They counted the shell casings. Everything was clear. Andrew had been planning this for months. He had turned his house into his own personal Squid Game. I was the only survivor. The nightmares won't stop. I close my eyes and still hear his voice. Red light, green light, and the gunshots. Always the gunshots. I don't know when I'll be able to sleep again.